The Italian madrigal. Whoever has heard pieces such as Claudio Monteverdi's Lamento di Arianna or Carlo Gesualdo's Mor o Lasso knows how passionate and captivating music of this genre can be. But besides such great figures as Monteverdi, Gesualdo, De Wert and Luzzaschi, there were numerous other composers who were active in Italy around 1600. A quite particular one of them, we've discovered, was Pomponio Nenna. Danish vocal consort Per Passione is as our upcoming project recording Pomponio Nenna's 8th book of madrigals, a hallmark recording even in international contexts, as this is music that has not been heard in Europe for several hundred years. So how did this project come about? German musicologist Mirko Oswald was working on an academic dissertation, the edition of Pomponio Nenna's 8th book of madrigals, music that had been lying forgotten in libraries and which had never been put into modern notation. He contacted Per Passione to ask if the ensemble would be interested in singing some of the madrigals, because what, he asked, would be the point of making this music available to a modern audience if no one would sing it? Of Nenna's madrigal works, Mirko had discovered, few had been put into modern notation, and even fewer recorded. But Nenna, who was a relatively productive composer and an intimate of the today much more famous Carlo Gesualdo, had, in fact, left quite a legacy behind him. His style, with its heavy use of chromaticism and a highly imitative musical language, was considered fairly experimental for its time.
Well, he has a lot of, I think it's just a basic part of his tonal language. Is it F sharp, F natural, C sharp, C natural? A lot of ambiguity there, and you could call it harmonic shading. He starts with a slow, dissonant, hanging chords, and then he goes on to having more movement and different types of melodic structures, some which are more rhythmically important, or with a rhythmic thrust, you could say, defining the music. Il ciel ti guarda,
The text to which Pomponio Nenna sets his music centre on the issues that we know so well from other madrigals at the time. His is a universe of beautiful but merciless shepherdesses, unrequited love, cruel mistresses, ardour, languishing and jealousy, but also of happiness beyond measure, of charming little green groves where the birds sing so sweetly, and of the joy one feels when the sun comes out in the spring.
One thing about the text of the late Renaissance and the early Baroque, they were very fond of oxymorons and conflicting concepts, putting things on edge. And also this is reflected in some of these texts. Some of the texts are very straightforward and portrays love as an innocent and unproblematical thing, while others there's more suffering, somehow the pain of love and of not being able to not getting what you want.
Even though we elsewhere find evidence of a friendly connection between Pomponio Nenna and Duke Fabrizio Carafa, the man who was found in flagrante delicto with Gesualdo's wife, Nenna seems also to have been on quite good terms with the passionate and peppery composer from Minosa. In fact, Gesualdo contributed several pieces to Nenna's 8th book of madrigals.
Of the 19 madrigals in the book, 3 of them are canzonettas, and the 2 last ones are by Gesualdo. But canzonettas, which is a lighter genre than the madrigal traditionally, and because we normally associate Gesualdo with the more heavy, chromatic stuff from we know from his late madrigal books and from some of his motets. Here we have him in a lighter genre, which is quite interesting, actually.
The vocal consort Per Passione was founded by Erik Nishimatsu Knudsen in 2007 as a Danish forum for the performance of music of the late Renaissance, with particular focus on the Italian madrigal of around 1600. The ensemble engages with many of the issues that are present in the current debate within the community committed to performance practice, but at the same time we see it as our responsibility to communicate the music we sing to a 21st century audience, with a focus on each ensemble member's individual freedom of expression and style. Although as such reasonably experienced within the genre of madrigals, working with this particular project has proved quite a challenge to Per Passione.
Of course, we've never actually heard this music sung before that we're singing right now, so it's like, in some ways it's like starting from scratch, and that's quite interesting and exciting. That's one of the most exciting parts of this project, I think, because I think we are finding our voice as an ensemble, through singing these madrigals, if you can say to put it like that.
Accompanying Per Passione in this production is Swedish lutenist Doye Sol, perhaps best known from his cooperation with Magnus Andersson in the ensemble The Ferrara Lute Duo, who won the prestigious Nordic Young Early Music Ensemble competition in 2008. Doye works all over Northern Europe and is among the founders of Hör Baroque, a Baroque music festival in the Swedish town of Hör. We hope for your support in this unusual project, which will bring into focus one of the lesser-known composers of the late Italian Renaissance. To Per Passione, there is little doubt that Nenna's madrigals are as viable and rewarding listening today as they were when they were first published in Rome in 1618.
For me, it's natural that, of course, it has something to say to people today in 2013. The basic human emotions are the same, more or less, but of course the mode of expression is different from our everyday music, pop music, rock music that we listen to all the time, or some of us do. But there's something in this otherness, I think, that can teach us something about ourselves also. The subject matter being human life and human emotion, the same that we hear in the radio all the time, but in a different voice, a voice from far back, which puts a bit of perspective on things, I think. Næste sats.
Jeg kan godt lide, du går ned i knæ. Ja, jeg var lige ved sådan noget.